Whenever we talk about the concept of group, we are talking about the concept of coercion. We are talking about the concept of attention factor. The clubs, the forums, the associations are the fundamental steps for understanding group dynamics and behavior. Whenever we talk about these formal groups, we always believe that the need for this type of group is to make the organization deliver that has been promised. Good morning and welcome to the first session in Unit 5, Organizational Behavior, where we are going to talk about the group dynamics. A very, very important chapter because this is going to focus on the group behavior, the group dynamics, and the factors that are associated with it. Now, when we talk about the group dynamics, what do you learn to do? We try to explain and explore the tension between individuals versus the groups and the group dynamics in organizational life. Now, when you join an organization, you are not going to work in isolation. You are going to work with hundreds and thousands of individuals just like you. Each one of them will have their own thoughts, opinions, ideas, vision. But it becomes very difficult for an individual to accept the other. So whenever we talk about the concept of group, we are talking about the concept of coercion. We are talking about the concept of attention factor. Why? Because we don't gel with people so easily. We are not able to accept them as what they are. So there is always this group dynamics that comes into picture. Now, when it goes through completing work, managing projects, and achieving goals, managers have a very tough time in managing the groups. Managers always feel that why can't it be so easy in terms of understanding people? But unfortunately, at any given point of time, I'm not able to understand people. I'm not able to relate to their needs, to their wants, to their thought process. So that's where group dynamics is one of the challenging aspects of organization behavior. Now, they can deal with each of their subordinates individually, assigning individual goals and allowing them to work alone. Everybody in this world always feels that I can do better. I am better and I am the best. But when that I is going to be replaced by we, now that's where I'm going to talk about. I'm going to replace that word I with we. There is a conflict. There is a tension. There is a kind of juggling that starts around. There's a kind of jitter that goes across the organizational vibes. Reason is very simple. Why? Because I say this word clearly. I is always possible to manage because it's only about you. It's only about one individual, what we are talking about. But we is a collection of people. So for every manager, it becomes very easy when I call on for a one-on-one session and I just talk to you saying that these are the work that you need to do. This is your assignment. These are the goals. These are the targets. Just go ahead. That individual will be able to perceive the same at his own wavelength. He doesn't even want to think further. He says, fine, this is fantastic, I'll do it to whatever the best ability possible. But then, when the same task is going to be assigned to a group of people, now starts the problem. People come back, ask thousands of questions saying that I'm not able to go with this person's ideology is not accepted, that leader is not good, this leadership activity is not happening. So what happens here is that conversely, managers can look at their subordinates as one large group or a subset of smaller groups and set them on a course of problem solving. So for a manager, the most interesting or the most happening factor is that why don't we put all these people in one single group, make them understand the importance of group behavior, the group dynamics. If I work in a team, what is very important for me to learn is the positivity. the collectivity, that we all work together for the same institution, for the same organization, with the same vision and same goal. So when we all join hands together, success can be easily spelt. But when we all start working individual, when we all start thinking differently, selfishly, then we are not able to work towards the individual goals, individual mission and vision. So that is why it becomes very, very important for all of us to join hands and do the work. Now, the next thing is the types of groups that we are going to speak about. If you have ever gone to a high school, then you already know about groups. Then you think, were you one among those cool kids? I would always ask, one among those brainy or the studious ones, or you join a chess club, French club, or the football club. All these clubs are important for us. Let me just step out from the organization. Let me just go back to the school days for a while. Whenever we were in our school, we always used to have a group of people called as friends. And each one of those friends were important because each one of them had a personal attachment to us. So each one of us used to like some activity. We were joining that activity because my friend was there. I joined the chess club because my friend was also there. I joined the football club because my friend told that yes, we both will play football. So what was happening is that we were learning that group behavior, the group activity invariably, right at that young age. But as we started growing up, the differences between individuals also grew. That led to a big divide among people. So that's why I always say that this concept, what we are trying to talk about, the clubs, the forums, the associations, are the fundamental steps for understanding group dynamics and behavior. These are the fundamental steps. These are that baby steps that you need to take in order to understand the group behavior and mechanism. So that's why I always say that group behavior is very, very important for all of us to study at all levels. Next, all of these clubs and cliques which you are a part of are the ones you were in our groups. And look at that, they are classified on the number of ways, how we are going to talk about the groups in the coming slides, no doubt about it. But these are the fundamental propositions of making you understand how group behavior starts evolving inside an individual. Now, let's talk about this. A group is defined as two or more individuals interacting and interdependent who have come together to achieve a particular objective. No doubts about it. And groups are either formal or informal. So this is the another factor that we have to learn, that we have to adapt, that we have to understand altogether. We are people who have understood groups either in a formal manner or in an informal manner. These things are very, very important for us to understand today. We understand that group as a mechanism. We understand group as a sectorial factor. We never understand group as a singleton activity. We don't want to go by that. We want to understand group as a factor, as an entire dynamic altogether. We want to believe that if today we are a part of a group, that group has got certain characteristics. It might be formal, it might be informal. So when I say something is formal, these are more time-bound, rules and regulations bound. And when I say that these are informal, then I'm talking about organizations which have their own set of classification. So let's just go forward and try to understand the formal group. A formal group is designated work group, one that is defined by an organization based on hierarchy, structure, designated task, and the functions altogether. So let's say that you are working in an organization in a department called as marketing. Now, marketing is a group, no doubt about it. Marketing is a functionality that's defined by the organization, and all the members working inside that particular group will be assigned a task, will be assigned a role. So they have to take up that role, they have to take up that task seriously. Why? Because the organization will expect something in return from them. You will not be given the option or permission to be as and when you like. You will be asked to do some role. You will be asked to perform some task that is being told. Now, what happens in a formal group is that there is a set of hierarchy, there's a set of standards, so that marketing will have an assistant manager, a senior manager, an AVP, a VP, and then a president of the marketing group or the chief marketing officer. So you would see that there is a hierarchy there, starting from the AM, then you go to the M, then you go to SM, then you go to AVP, then you go to VP, and then you see the CMO. So a whole set of hierarchy of answering to that particular division. Now, what happens in a formal group is that each and every activity that you do, you are accountable for that. You cannot take that group or you cannot take that activity in a casual manner. You are supposed to answer it at any given point of time. What I mean by saying is that the responsibility in a formal group is very high when compared to that of an informal group. And that's why what happens is that whenever we form a formal group, we always say that it is a designated work group. I'm using this word again. Why? Because designated means there is a specific purpose. You will not be doing anything outside the purpose. You will be doing something that is related to that role, that is related to that job altogether. So that's how we call it as a designated work group. Followed by the formal groups are relatively permanent, usually working under a single supervisor, although the structure of the formal group might vary. For example, finance group works under the chief financial officer at an organization. So now what happens here is that, as I have told you, there is a person called as chief financial officer. Now that person is working under a particular setup, and there might be groups within the finance group, like the accounts payable group, the treasury group. Each one of them will have their own supervisory effects altogether. So each one of them will be responsible in terms of handling, in terms of telling what we have done, how we have done it, and what are all the challenges and aspects that are being told there. So what I would always like to say here is that whenever we talk about this formal groups, we always believe that the need for this type of group is to make the organization deliver that has been promised. So whenever you get a job in a company, the first thing the human resources department, that's the HR team, will try to do is that align yourself with the structure of the organization. They will make you believe that these are the factors under which you need to work, and these are the terms and conditions. So the formal group will have restrictions, will have a set of do's and don'ts, which will make the individual understand the importance of being in that group. So it's very, very important for us. It's very, very on an objective note for us to understand how to be a part of a formal group. Followed by the task forces and committees are also formal group because they have been created with a formal authority or an organization. Now, most of the time what happens in organization is that there are many a time we create a task force, we create a committee, we create a set of factors altogether which work in terms of gaining certain activities, certain work altogether. Now, what these people tend to do is that these people will not give up on the job. These people will not give up on a particular role. They want to be a part of the system. They will try to understand that whatever task is being assigned. Now, let's say that there's a women empowerment cell, or there is a anti-harassment cell, or there is a committee which is going to talk about diversity cell. Now, all these task force and committee has been created because they are serving a specific purpose. They have been given an authority to inquire into the incidents, to inquire into the situation, and if there are some deviations from the norms of the organization, these authorities will have the rights to question on it and they can take forward the action. So normally what happens is that the task forces are usually temporary and they are set up for a purpose, while committees are more permanent in nature, like the planning committee, finance committee, and so many other integral parts of the committee. So by default, what we are trying to learn, what we are trying to build inside an organization is a system, is a process by which the group will try to understand it, they will try to function within that particular norm, and they will try to create something more meaningful in nature. With this, I come to the end of this particular session. In the next session, we will be trying to learn something more about the group dynamics and behavior. I hope and believe that all the information that has been spoken through this session will be of a great help and resource to you. In the upcoming sessions, we still have to talk more on the dynamics and the different aspects that the organizations are presently facing. But until then, stay tuned, stay blessed, and stay enlightened. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session.